Hey, what's up, everybody? It's David, aka D-Man for Life, aka D-Mizzle for Rizzle, and yes, I am using the real government name, and I'm back from a hiatus, folks, and I'm back with the free play mode quick hit of December 18th, 2014, the post-birthday edition. So, I know everybody and their mother has been talking about Street Fighter V and how it's a Sony exclusive and how it's coming to Windows and it's not coming to Xbox One, and how that's a great thing for Sony, but I don't think that's a good thing at all, and I'm explaining why. Now, people will think that, oh, you're just a hater, you're anti-Sony, you're an Xbox fanboy, but hear me out, let me explain. The reason why I think this is a bad thing is because this is a deal between two companies that are in very, very, very bad shape financially over a game that is in a very niche genre. Now, I like fighting games. I'm a huge fighting game fan, but I'm not stupid enough to realize that fighting games have this mass appeal. Granted, they are the top of the niche genre, so to speak, and that a lot of people do play fighting games, but when you put it in comparison to games like League of Legends and first-person shooters and Madden and NBA 2K, sales for fighting games pale in comparison, and I think this is where the bad deal is when it comes to Sony and Capcom. Because, let me break this down. If you look at it, across all four versions of Street Fighter that have come out since the launch of the original Street Fighter 4, and I'm talking about the vanilla version, Super Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition 2012, and Ultra Street Fighter 4, that's 5 versions, but 4 made it to retail. Street Fighter 4 has sold 7.5 million copies of the game, and people out there are like, wait, Dave, that's great. Almost 8 million copies over the life of this game across 4 separate retail editions. And yeah, that is great, but you have to remember that this is counting all incarnations of the game across all platforms that it was released on. It wasn't released on just one platform that it did nearly 8 million copies. Street Fighter 4 was released on the PC, it was released on Xbox 360, it was released on PlayStation 3, it was released for Game Boy 3DS, well, Nintendo 3DS, excuse me. So you have all these platforms that it was released on, and if you break that down, that averages out to just about 1.8 million copies per edition that was released across all 4 platforms. And the 2 major platforms that it was released for, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, PlayStation 3 had more sales of Street Fighter overall than the Xbox 360 version did. Not by much, but it did have the majority of the sales. So now, if you're Sony and Capcom, you're looking at a market of just over 1 million copies of Street Fighter sold for your specific system. And they're hoping that people will abandon Microsoft's platform, which is the Xbox One, and buy a PlayStation 4 so they can play Street Fighter V. And I'm gonna tell people this, like, people who own fighting games are not rich people. They're not swimming in dough. There are very few people that actually make a living playing fighting games. Like, these people you see streaming on Twitch TV, these people you see having videos uploaded to YouTube, very few of those people actually make money from playing fighting games. And then you have the tournament level players. Tournament level players will have both consoles regardless, so they're not gonna like sway sales away from one console or another. And it's not as if fighting games have a long buy life cycle. And what I mean by buy life cycle is, take a game like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is one of the most popular games out there. It has a very long buy cycle from the time it's released nearly till the time the new one is released, which would be like 18 months later. That game constantly sells. Like every month that game is out, it's in the top 20 of the games that are sold, like most games sold. Fighting games are not like that. People who get fighting games, they're usually going to get the fighting game within the first 2 or 3 weeks of release. So the bulk of people, that's where the bulk of fighting game sales come from, is within that 2 to 3 week span of first release. Yeah, you'll get sales, like, okay, someone's curious about it, but you're not going to get that high volume sales as the life of the game continues, because everybody who wants the game will have, by and large, have purchased it. So you're getting your money within the first month of sales, and that's not a good thing when you're trying to pay for exclusivity of a premier franchise. And while I like Street Fighter, I'm kind of burned out on Street Fighter because they did the same thing they did with Street Fighter 2. They released like 50 million versions of Street Fighter 4, and quite honestly, by Arcade Edition, I was burned out. I stopped caring about Street Fighter. Maybe I'll start caring about Street Fighter 5, like somewhere down the line, but this is too close to the release of Ultra Street Fighter 4, which just recently came out within the last couple of months. So they're figuring a 2015 release for Street Fighter 5 for the PlayStation 4. And honestly, I really don't care. I've stopped caring about Street Fighter for the time being. Will it be a huge seller for Sony? Yeah, they'll get 1.5 million, maybe 2 million copies of Street Fighter 5 sold. Will it cause them to sell more systems? Not really. You'll probably get like maybe a couple of people who are not the hardcore fighting game fan buying your system because of Street Fighter 5, but they're not going to come over en masse because Street Fighter 5 is on the system. As I said, fighting games are a niche genre, and while they are fun to play and they're fun to watch, I'm not going to pretend and lie to you and say that they're huge sellers. The best fighting game of all time is still Tekken 3 back in the PlayStation 1 era. So that shows you how niche of a genre fighting games are, when Tekken 3 is still the best fighting game to have ever been sold. And to be honest, Call of Duty outperforms that number every time a Call of Duty is released, no matter how bad or how unwell the game is received by the general public. Call of Duty will always beat that number that Tekken 3 posted, so that's something to consider. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I want you to rate, comment, and subscribe, and if you haven't recommended me to your friends, please do that. So this is the December 18th version of the free play mode quick hit. I'm out, y'all. Peace.